Coming up on the show, the Asian Development Bank approved a fresh $800 million aid package for Pakistan. Tonight we decode why the world keeps on bailing Pakistan's economy out. You're watching TKC World, where we make sense of the global events with straight facts and sharp analysis. Also on the show, why United States inflation won't drop until 2026. Why Musk hates Trump's big beautiful bill, and finally, is Japan running out of people? All this is lined up. Let's begin. The Asian Development Bank or ADB approved a fresh $800 million aid package for Pakistan. This comes days after the IMF handed over $1 billion in bailout money. That's two back-to-back bailouts for a country already neck deep in debt. India obviously strongly objected to both of these bailouts. But why? Because India believes this money may not be used for development but could actually fund terrorism and military spending in Pakistan. So why does the world keep bailing out Pakistan? And more importantly, why does Pakistan keep needing a bailout in the first place? Let's decode Pakistan's bailout economy, starting with a little background. Pakistan isn't new to this game. Since joining the IMF in 1950, it has entered into 25 loan programs. That's more than one program every 3 years. In fact, between 1989 and now, Pakistan has received IMF money in 28 of the last 35 years. This is what many experts are now calling a bailout addiction. Why is Pakistan always on the edge of default? Because the bailouts are used to buy time, not fix the problems. So what's the actual problem with Pakistan's economy? You see, Pakistan's economy is hollow at the core. Let me break this down for you, starting with the debt. External debt is over 133 billion. That's a third of its GDP. Just interest payment eat up to 43% of its federal revenue. What about tax revenue? The country collects taxes worth only 9.2% of its GDP, among the lowest in the whole world. Agriculture and retail, two major sectors, barely pay any taxes. On the front of growth, well, things aren't either promising. GDP growth was 2.68% last year, barely keeping up with the inflation. Industry is shrinking and agriculture is stagnant. Over 10 million Pakistanis are now facing acute food insecurity. That's more than the population of Portugal. So what happens when your income is low, expenses are high, and you keep taking loans to survive? You fall into a debt trap. Here is where it gets even more complex. The Pakistani military doesn't just guard borders or terrorism. It runs businesses in the country as well. Through its sprawling empire and a body called the Special Investment Facilitation Council, the military now directly controls major parts of the economy of Pakistan. Some estimates say it controls over 5 to 10% of its GDP, and yet most of it is untaxed. This means real economic reforms like taxing agriculture or cutting defense spending directly hurt the military's interests. So they often don't happen in the first place. So why do institutions like the IMF, ADB and the World Bank keep giving Pakistan money? Here are three main reasons for this. Number one, geopolitical importance. You see, Pakistan is in a strategic, unique location between China, India and the Afghanistan. No one wants it to collapse. Second, the almighty nuclear weapons. A financial meltdown in a nuclear-armed country is indeed a global security risk. Third, fear of refugees and instability. If Pakistan defaults, it could create regional chaos, economic migration, and extremism export to the world. But India has a different view. It says enough is enough. New Delhi argues that Pakistan is not only mismanaging its economy but is also using global money to fund and support terrorism. It flagged how Pakistan keeps boosting its defense budget even as its tax revenue collapses. India also criticized the IMF and ADB for ignoring Pakistan's failure to act on FATF mandates like freezing terrorist assets. The moral question is simple: are global institutions rewarding bad behavior, or rather terrorism? For the first time, the IMF is pushing back. It's demanding real, actual reforms, tax on agriculture, fewer subsidies, and action against money laundering. But the real question is, will Pakistan actually change? Because here is the bitter truth. The world may still be bailing, but Pakistan is still sinking. Unless it confronts its military-led economy, ends its reliance on borrowed money, and embraces genuine reforms, it won't just default on debt, it will default on its very future. What if inflation in the US stays high for next 2 years? What if it's not just about the economy but politics driving your grocery bills? And what if Trump tariffs are cutting your pockets down? The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or short formed as OECD, just downgraded its forecast for the US economy. They now expect US growth to fall to 1.6% in 2025, down from an earlier forecast of 2.2%, and by 2026 growth may drop even lower to just 1.5%. The question is, what's driving this slowdown? The answer is very simple: Donald Trump's tariffs. Trump returns to aggressive trade policies like doubling tariffs on steel and aluminium from 25% to 50% is once again shaking the economic outlook. The cost of imported goods is rising, and that burden is getting passed down on to customers. Federal Reserve Governor Christopher Waller recently warned that these tariffs could raise inflation and unemployment, especially in the second half of year 2025. In the simple terms, when tariffs go up, imports get more expensive, businesses either pass that cost on to customers or cut the jobs. That means higher prices and fewer opportunities. But why is the Federal Reserve so concerned? Waller pointed out to something very deeper: uncertainty. When businesses don't know what trade policy will look in next year, they delay their investments. And when investments slow down, so does the economic growth. Even though the Fed is holding interest rates steady for now, for time being, it is not because everything is okay. It is because they are watching and waiting. They're in wait and watch situation. Economists at Goldman Sachs also agree with this notion. They expect the US economy to grow just 1% this year. They call it a mediocre performance and worry that inflation could stick around longer if tariffs keep rising. They say if Trump's trade war returns in full force, the economy might suffer not just short-term pain, but long-term inflation and stagnation. And here is the kicker: tariffs might sound like they protect American jobs, but when applied broadly and aggressively, they can backfire, slow global trade, and weaken customer spending. So the big question is, can the US afford 2 more years of economic uncertainty tied to political chaos? Or will the cost of tough talk be paid by everyday Americans? What happens when the richest man in the world calls the US president's favorite bill a disgusting abomination? Is Elon Musk finally done with Donald Trump? Or is this just business dressed as drama? And why is Musk so furious about something Trump called quote-unquote big, beautiful, and historic? Dear viewers, let's decode the politics, power, and business interests behind this very public fallout. Until recently, Elon Musk and Donald Trump seemed like unlikely allies who understood each other, both anti-establishment, loud and powerful in their own ways. Musk even served as an advisor in Trump's government, leading a special team to reduce federal funding. But now that bromance seems to be falling apart, and quite fast. On June 3rd, Elon Musk unleashed a brutal takedown of Trump's flagship tax and spending bill, famously dubbed the One Big Beautiful Bill. Musk called it disgusting abomination, packed with pork barrel spending, and accused those who voted for it of betrayal of American people. His biggest issue: the $2.5 trillion budget deficit the bill could create. Musk warned that this kind of reckless spending would crush future generations with nothing but debt. But is this just about deficit, or is there something more to this story? Musk's anger might have less to do with patriotism and more to do with business. Trump's bill proposes cuts to EV tax credits, a big blow to Tesla, which depends heavily on these government incentives. Tesla reportedly spent over 240,000 US dollars just lobbying to keep those credits alive. And Musk personally pushed for these policies but unsuccessfully. And it doesn't stop there, dear viewers. Musk also wanted the US government to adopt his Starlink satellite system for managing national air traffic. But the Trump administration rejected it over the conflict of interest concerns. Then came another blow. Trump withdrew the nomination of Jared, a Musk ally, to head nothing but NASA. Musk reportedly took that as a personal insult. In short, Musk's empire isn't just missing out on billions in benefits, it is getting blocked on the American front. So is this the end of Trump-Musk friendship? The White House says no. Trump's press secretary shrugged off Musk's criticism, saying that the president already knew Elon Musk's views. But dear viewers, what about the scenes behind the closed doors? Sources say Trump was quote-unquote annoyed with Musk's social media attacks. Some believe it's no longer about friendship, it's about control over tech, control over policy, and the future of innovation. Musk says he will now spend a lot less on political donations, but his tweets suggest the opposite. He may not be running for the office, but he is certainly not done with politics either. At its core, it's just a clash of egos. No, it is not. It's about who controls America's future, its economy, its technology, and the direction in which America is headed. Trump wants a big tax cuts and loses spending. Musk wants investment in electric cars, satellites, and the industries of tomorrow. And right now, those visions are colliding with each other. So is this a temporary spat or a long-term split? Well, that's still unclear, but one thing is clear for sure: when billionaires fight, economies tremble and citizens pay the real price. What happens when more people die than are born? What if a country slowly starts shrinking? Not by war, not by disaster either, but simply because people stop having children. That's exactly what's happening in Japan, and experts are calling it a quiet emergency. In 2024, for the first time ever, the number of babies born in Japan dropped below 7 lakh. To be exact, 6,86,061 births only. That's 41,000 fewer than the year before. And while babies are becoming fewer, deaths are rising. In 2024 alone, Japan recorded 1.6 million deaths. That means the country lost nearly 1 million people in just 1 year, a steep population decline that's hard to reverse. Prime Minister of Japan, Ishiba, has called this crisis quote-unquote a quiet emergency. But make no mistake, it is not quite for long. Japan is now the second oldest country in the world after Monaco, and it's facing severe worker shortages, rising social welfare costs, and a looming pension crisis. So what's causing this collapse in birth rates in Japan? Here are 4 major reasons. 1. Young women are fewer in number because of declining past birth rates. 2nd, people are marrying later, not marrying at all. Either they are marrying later or they are not marrying at all. 3rd, raising a child is expensive and many couples feel they cannot afford it. And finally, 4th reason is that the work culture in Tokyo, in Japan, is intense, especially in big cities like Tokyo, leaving little time for family or family life. Japan's fertility rate, that's the average number of children a woman is expected to have, fell to 1.15% in 2024 in Tokyo. It's even worse below 1. For reference, a country needs a fertility rate of around 2.1 to maintain its population. The question is, what's the government doing? The Japanese government is trying very hard to fix this declining fertility crisis. They're offering tuition fee, high school education, wage compensation for couple who take parental leave, childcare support and flexible work hours, and even matchmaking events. Yes, matchmaking events to encourage marriages. Prime Minister of Japan is also trying to revitalize rural area where most people are elderly and villages are vanishing. But the problem, dear viewers, is bigger than policies. It's cultural, economic, and deeply rooted into the lifestyle people have in Japan. Now, the question is, why does this matter to the rest of the world? After all, this show is the world. Because Japan is not alone. South Korea's fertility rate is even lower, just 0.75. In the US, 2023 saw the lowest birth rates in over 40 years. Globally, many advanced economies are watching their populations shrink. In Japan's case, it's affecting everything. The labor force is shrinking, the pension system is under strain, as I mentioned earlier, and public debt is rising because of social welfare now taking up to 1/3 of the national budget. 1/3. The number of newlyweds in Japan did go up slightly last year, but so there is a small hope, but the hope is very small. But unless birth rates bounce back soon, Japan could face a future where ghost towns outnumber playgrounds. This quiet emergency may soon become the country's loudest crisis. That is what the data shows. And that's all I have for you on the show tonight, dear viewers. Now I will see you tomorrow. Until then, take care and good night.